Hello and welcome to another Broken Meeple episode. I'm Luke Hector and I review and rant about board games, usually more the latter. We'll get on with the video in just a moment, but first my sponsor would like a quick word with you. As gamers, we find it hard to deal with empty shelves, some worse than others. You therefore want a supplier that has what you need at affordable prices and delivers on time. For me, that supplier is KIENDA. They offer a discount on bulk purchases as well as a points scheme for future acquisitions down the line. If there's a hot title you're after, chances are KIENDA's got it. Wingspan? Mine. Arc Nova? Mine. Eclipse? Actually, I hate that game, it's terrible, but you might like it. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So I got a little quickie video for you today, not going to go into too much detail. This is a preview, and I know that I don't tend to do previews. I very rarely do them. I cherry pick most of mine, but it's essentially a preview slash review slash first impressions, whatever you want to call it, of Rebirth and Mighty Board. So this one recently came out on Kickstarter and has already completed. So you may be able to get onto a late pledge manager. Failing that, just wait for it to come out on retail. But this is not an advert for the game because, well, the Kickstarter is already finished, or what am I advertising here? This is essentially a late prototype that has been sent to me with the Scotland map. This game can come with 2 maps, and I have just one of the maps. Paul Grogan, if you check out his content, he's done a tutorial and a gameplay video of the Ireland map, so you'll be able to get both instances there. And I've been given this the beans, and I've just decided to do a video on kind of like my thoughts as to whether I like the game or not. You know, yes, I will have opinions here, and also whether this was one that I have Kickstarter regret, because I don't tend to back stuff on Kickstarter much anymore, so would I back this if it was my own money? And just to let you know kind of how the game plays. Rebirth at its core is a very straightforward game. You essentially have a bunch of what will eventually be like big hex tiles in the finished version, a bunch of tiles that have various symbols on them, and they might have leaves on them, they may have power symbols on them, or they may have settlement symbols on them. And the idea is that you'll have one of these for your turn, and you decide where to place it on the map. The map has got different locations that allow you to place certain hexes on different spots. So some of them are freeform, you can place what you like, but others are restricted to, I must put a leaf symbol on this one, I must put a power symbol on this one, and settlements must go in the city areas like Dundee, Edinburgh, and Braemar and Aberdeen. You know, my Scotland geography is only good up to a point. But the idea is that you're placing these tiles in such a way as to score victory points. It is very much a dry game. I mean, as much as the cover looks gorgeous and that, the theme is pretty much non-existent here. This is an abstract game through and through. I mean, it's Reiner Knizia, what do you expect? But the idea of this is that how you place the tiles on this board dictates how you score points. So if you manage to put down various tiles of the same type and keep them clustered together, you'll score points for having a cluster of your stuff together. But then you'll also have the settlement areas, where if you can place settlements in, you know, like small to big areas, you will get various victory points for having the most of your settlement symbol there. You also have the castles, which these castles will be represented by nice little big chunky pieces here. You'll put your tiles on the board, let's say here for example, your castle will go there, and then basically people will try to surround the castle with their own tiles, and whoever has the most basically gets control of the castle. Again, victory points at the end of the game. The other small addition is that when you surround the cathedrals, which there are specific spots here, I'm trying to see if I can find a cathedral off the top of my head. My knowledge of cathedrals is limited. Oban Cathedral, I believe, is a cathedral, so that one there. As soon as you put a tile next to it and visit it, you'll draw one of these mission cards from a face-down deck, which essentially are objectives. So, you know, most medium settlements, most cathedrals, you know, occupying more spaces next to Aberdeen Castle, most ports, most cathedrals, most castles, most whatever. You know, there's all sorts of different, you know, various objectives, and they score you victory points if you meet the condition. And that's kind of the whole game, really. You basically carry on until you've used up all your tiles, and then you total up the victory points and see who wins. Yeah. What else is there? This is a very straightforward game. I mean, I kid you not. This is the prototype rules that I got in the box, and, you know, this looks longer than it is because obviously it's like, you know, a printed sheet with all this. But it took me about like 5-10 minutes to read the rules of this game, and it was easy enough to teach from that point. This is meant to be super simple and super fast. The game quotes 60 minutes on the box. that is a very accurate time, actually. I mean, even with a teach, you should get this game done in about an hour. Paul Grogan did a tutorial and gameplay on his show with 3 players playing the Ireland map and got it done in an hour. So, 4 players, should be able to easily get this done in an hour, even with a teach, frankly. So, finally, I can't believe I'm saying this, there's actually a box game out here where the time on the box is accurate. We know this is kind of like a rare occasion now, so I'm pleased to see it. It does 2 to 4 players, so there is no solo mode. I don't really see the point of a solo mode, so honestly, do not shove one in just for the sake of it. I think this is fine as it is, a 2 to 4 player game. In terms of player scaling, it's mainly just a case of how many of these tiles that you have. In a 4 player game, you have to remove some of them because you all have the exact same tiles as you go into each game. But aside from that, there's not a huge amount of different changes with the scaling. So the game is frightfully simple, and the game is frightfully easy to learn and very, very quick to play. Visually, it's also quite a pleaser on the table. I mean, obviously this is prototype components. No doubt these will be thicker cardboard in the official one, and you'll have rewood castle blocks, which will look similar to this. So these are already pretty cool. But mainly it's just the artwork. The artwork on the box cover is fantastic. I love that picture and I would have that on my wall. However, it's not exactly painting the right picture for the game, because that makes me think I'm going to play some really really cool, interesting city builder, settlement builder game. Maybe with a dollop of theme here. You've got a little Zeppelin bit there in the background. It's like, ooh, there's some cool aspects here. But really, this is an abstract tile laying game. In fact, you don't even have any blimps. I think they're going to put blimps as a scoring marker for each player, and that's literally it. So that's on there more as kind of like a bait and switch. But all you are basically doing is just putting tiles on the board to score points by about 5 or 6 different ways that you're able to score points in the game. In the Ireland map from Paul Grogan's video, you essentially have open objectives rather than hidden ones, and you have towers on the board where if you visit the towers, you get bonuses based on the tower. And there's a few more open-ended areas on there. Not a huge amount of difference, frankly. I mean, the Ireland map is meant to be the slightly more gamery version of the game, whereas Scotland is more the family version of the game. But honestly, there really isn't a lot of difference between the two from what I can see. So it's not like, it's not like the Ireland map is super advanced. It's just slightly more advanced than this one. You might have a few more objectives to read at the start of the game, and that's kind of it for extra complexity. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. But this one is definitely super simple. Maybe a little too simple in that regard, because, as much as there is different ways to score points, your decision making is rather limited, I found. You only have one of these tiles to place down. Now, good thing you actually get to look at this at the end of your turn. So you finish your turn, draw a new one, and then by the time it gets wrapped around to you, you can see where it is you're going to go. Why Carcassonne doesn't put this in its actual official rules, I don't know, but it's in this one, thankfully. But you only have this tile. That's it. So let's say I pick up this one, which was a settlement tile. Well, that's just alienated about 75% of the board. All I've got left is a few other little spots where this can go. And usually it's dumb choice or right choice. There's not a huge amount of variation as to oh, well, maybe I should go there, or maybe I should go there. No, there seems to be some fairly obvious places you really should go, whether it's because it's on its own, or it'll score more points if you occupy more of it, or if you're trying to block someone else, although there's not a great deal of blocking in this game, at least not intentional blocking. You might want to stop people getting clusters of farms, for example, but at the end of the day, you need to get points yourself, and if you spend all your time blocking someone else and it doesn't score you enough points, chances are somebody else is going to run away with the game who doesn't get blocked and doesn't join in that. So, yeah, there is a little bit of interaction, and I guess there's probably a little bit more on the island map, but I don't really play this thinking, oh yeah, I'm really that invested in what the other players are doing. It's just like, they're there, they're annoying, they get in my way, as do most opponents in a Euro game. But other than that, yeah, your decisions feel kind of simple, really. I mean, if you get objectives, then you know what sort of stuff you need to go for. I mean, here I go. Largest energy farm. Have the largest energy farm cluster. Well, okay, I guess I'll do that then. And, well, there's only so many places you can even put energy, so your spots are fairly limited, and therefore your decisions are fairly limited. But yeah, it's not that the game has no decision-making whatsoever, or no real sense of strategy or tactics, but this is a very straightforward game, and I don't know how much there really is for gamers here. This is the simpler of the two maps. I'll give it that. I've not played the Ireland map, but this map is definitely going to be for people who are pretty much brand new to games and, don't want to play like a stupidly complex Euro as their first introduction to a pure Euro game. This one is definitely like pretty much open to anybody to be able to play. It is not complicated in any way, shape or form, and it's usually pretty straightforward to see where the hexes are, you know, where the different spots are that you can go. It's clearly printed, so it's not like eyesight should get in the way, even though there are some busy aspects around the settlements and that. The one bit that I'm a little bit, I don't know if they'll change this in the final version, is that the symbol for settlement and cathedral is quite similar to each other, and they don't necessarily stand out as much on the board when you're looking at all the sort of different bits of artwork. So I think the cathedrals need to be made to stand out more on this board so that they're not confused with normal settlement spaces. But, you know, the objectives themselves, it's cool. You get a nice little bit of variation, although these introduce a slight problem as well. In the Ireland map, these are open-ended and selected at the start of the game. That sounds more up my street. These ones that are basically just a face-down deck and you draw, if you draw them early, then you're not necessarily getting other spots, but you really do need to get these early, because if you draw them later on in the game, they could be just completely useless to you, or they might just swing the game and give somebody 5 points, you know, for no reason. I mean, okay, let's see, I'll draw this one. Occupy the most spaces adjacent to Oban Cathedral. Oh, well, conveniently I have already. Sweet, well there's an easy 5 points. That arises with the Scotland map and the way they do objectives. It's a family game, it's light, it's simple, it's fast. I don't expect this to be super strategic, so an element of luck is there, but you just have to accept that that might be a factor. Though you do tend to score quite a few points in this game. I mean, 5 points for an objective is not a huge amount when you've got, you know, points for clusters and points for settlement spaces and points for having castles. You know, you'll easily lap the board in terms of points and then some. So, you know, it's not like it's... The objectives by themselves, like one swingy objective, probably won't swing the game for somebody, but, you know, it's a little luck aspect. You just need to understand it's there. Another issue I did encounter with this is the AP factor. It's not a complicated game, and yes, there is, you know, like in my opinion, kind of dumb choice, right choice with a lot of the times you have to play something. But I did encounter a few times where AP-prone players can really drag this game out a bit. And again, not like even past the hour mark. I mean, you will be done with this game in an hour. If it takes any longer than that, then you really need to, like, speed up the player, or kick them under the table or something, get them moving. But, you know, this has a potential to be AP prone, particularly in the early parts of the game when you've got your first tile and you're like, well, where do I even start? I don't know, there, I guess. And you tend to fall in one or two categories. You either just put it down somewhere because, what the hell, it's the start of the game, it doesn't really matter, or you freeze up and think, well, I've got all these different spaces I could put it on right now at the start of the game, where do I start? It's kind of like the 5 tribes issue, where 5 tribes gives you so many options at the beginning of the game that people freeze up and don't realize that you can kind of just stick it anywhere, really. It's not that big a deal. But you will get some players freeze up a little bit, even though that you will have the whole round of play to decide where you want to go. But just bear it in mind, I've encountered it a few times, but not enough to destroy the game. So yeah, it is what it is, a tile laying abstract game. I probably prefer the Ireland map personally. I don't think there's enough on the Scotland map to keep me that engaged, that entertained. But it is a super fast, super easy game, and it is a looker. So it does have, you know, some good stuff going for it. I don't regret not backing it on Kickstarter. I don't think this is one I would spend like a full Kickstarter price on. It will probably be one that, you know, if somebody brings to a club and they want to play it for the sake of 45 minutes, I'd play it. It'd be fine. And I'm sure I would probably enjoy the Ireland map more with the towers and the open objectives. But I don't think those two small changes are going to be enough to suddenly make it like gamified. It just makes it slightly more advanced than this one. And so, you know, if it's on the table, I would play it, but I don't think I would be seeking it out. But by all means, that's just my thoughts. You know, give it a try if you can, you know, when it comes out on retail. Check out Paul Grogan's video. He's done a full tutorial and gameplay of it, so you can see exactly how it works and how super fast it is. I mean, 3 players with a teach, and bear in mind he's teaching it on video, so he's got to teach it slower, but he does it all in an hour. That's pretty good going. So, you know, by all means, check out that video and see for yourself. But yeah, it's fine. I'd play it. I just don't think it's one that I'm going to be seeking out like crazily come, say, well, I don't know when it's going to come out from its Kickstarter, whether that's Essen or next year. We'll have to wait and see. So that's it from me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the page. Don't forget to check out the rest of my content. I've got reviews coming out. By all means, check them out. Bring those views up and share them out on social media. Check out the Patreon as well if you want to help keep this channel funded. This channel is basically a self-funding hobby, so therefore anything that you can do to help contribute to its continued growth is always well appreciated. Take care. And remember, regardless of whether you like wood, rewood, or some other kind of wood, it's still only a game. So bye for now.